Today on Locked On Red Wings, does Moritz Seider have more growth in him? Can Michael Rasmussen bounce back? And how much impact will Mason Appleton have on the team? We preview those three players in part 2 on today's episode.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley, and we are planning to continue our player previews as it is August, and that's the best time to do player previews as we slowly inch our way to development camp, or training camp rather, as well as the prospect games out in Dallas this year. No more Traverse City, unfortunately.
I know.
It's a bummer that came to an end. But we got 3 exciting players for you. Kind of the theme here with these player previews is every episode to have some kind of marquee player to draw you in. On the first episode, we did Dylan Larkin. On today's episode, we're going to have Moritz Seider, kind of continuing that, talking about the core in each episode. But Scotty, Moritz Seider is the best defenseman on the team, one of the best defensemen in the NHL, by my own estimation, but I'm incredibly biased. How much more do we expect Moritz Seider to grow, I think, is kind of the question. Because this is already a guy who, in 82 games, by the way, hasn't missed a single game as an entire career.
Which is wild.
Right. Has played some of the most difficult minutes in the NHL out of any defenseman.
Physical, too.
Too. 2 seasons ago, a 200 hit, 200 block shot season.
Mm-hmm.
He came close to that again this season, was near the top of the league in both of those statistical categories. Had 46 points playing power play unit 1. That's the second highest point total in his career. He had 50 in his rookie season. Playing all the special teams, playing the toughest minutes at even strength. I feel like this question is tougher, and I'm going to throw it to you first, but is tougher because so much is already asked of him. How much more is reasonable to ask of him to grow?
Yeah, and I think really one of the big questions we talked about, not only this time last year, but also earlier in the offseason, was very, very similar question, just worded slightly differently, and that was, how high is his ceiling, right? Is this as good as he's going to get, which I don't think anyone that really should have a problem with. That's a really good defenseman, as we just talked about. But is there even more room to grow? And I think that the Red Wings are hoping that there's probably a little bit more room to even grow. And that's, again, not to say that he's not producing right now or he's not good right now. But I think specifically on the offensive side of the puck, not that he's ever going to be a goal scorer, but I mean, if they can get incredible defensive performances and production from him, be the guy that is always going to get the hardest deployments and some of the hardest deployments in the NHL, as we talked about throughout the season last year. And also be a guy that, I mean, he played power play 1 last year and was very, very solid in that role. But if he can be a guy that
in the league,
right? Yeah, if he can produce offensively at consistently a mid 50s point total type of mark, and that be the new floor for his offensive production going forward. He's still so young too. There is still time for him to grow if that is possible. Then I think that's probably, I'll say best case scenario of, reasonableness that the Red Wings are probably looking at. But if this is what he is, then that's totally okay too, because what he is right now is one of the best defensemen in the league.
Right. I mean, we go back to that conversation we had on Friday, or I guess Thursday was when the episode came out, because somebody was stupid and accidentally scheduled it to come out the wrong day.
Unbelievable.
I can't believe you would do that. But it's the what do you hope to see versus what do you expect to see, right?
Yeah,
there's a gap there in a lot of cases. And I think I'd like to hope to see,
You'd like to hope? You're combining them?
Yep, I'd like to hope. Several degrees away, just to protect myself. Gotta love sitting in the fence.
I would like to hope to maybe see,
perchance, that he get into that 50-point range, like you were saying. I think that is probably his offensive ceiling. We've seen him hit 50 points, but it's been several years. But this year, playing on power play unit 1, he got 46, which, again, I want to remind people, getting 40-plus points as a defender, especially one who gets his deployments, is incredibly impressive. Obviously, a lot of those are power play points, but they had the 6th best power play, so clearly it's not just that he is benefiting off of that. He is contributing to that. So
for sure,
I like to think I'd like to hope to think that maybe there is a chance for like 9 more points and you get to like 55, but I think that's probably his offensive ceiling. If this is his offensive ceiling, that's perfectly okay too. Like, my expectation of Moritz Seider is fortunately and unfortunately this again. And I say unfortunately because he's asked to do probably just a little bit more than he should, because this team still lacks that hard depth to take more off him. But thankfully, we have a guy in Moritz Seider who is capable of playing and almost, I wouldn't say thrive, but thrive in those minutes. Yeah, because of the fact that, like, this is a guy, like, looking at his volume, knowing that he is one of the defensemen in the league that has the hardest deployments. You look at the statistics, the Evolving Hockey stat card, he was a 95th percentile defenseman last year, despite getting some of the hardest deployments in the NHL. He was 95th percentile in defense and 83 percentile in offense. And that 95 percentile in defense, his expected goals above average was more than double his actual goals above average, which means that even with those difficult deployments, he was expected to play even better than he did, which is just insane. Like, this is a guy who can do it all on the ice, and I think that some Red Wings fans have a hard time admitting that he is as damn good as he is, just solely because he's not Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes or Zach Werenski, who get softer deployments, easier deployments, more offensive
and different
deployments.
Style. I mean, he's better defensively than a lot of those guys you just named.
Like, we have a excellent two-way defenseman, and I'm kind of using this, I guess, as another opportunity to get on my pedestal and talk about how much I love Moritz Seider. But the expectation for him is to do exactly what he did last year. It's hard to ask of more from him. If he hits 55 points, that would be incredible. That would be the hope. But the expectation is, can he do 45 points and play the toughest minutes in the league again and still thrive in that situation? Yeah, I think that's probably what the expectation is, because he's proven he can do it.
For sure. Yeah, I really don't disagree or have too much else to say. I think we have seen him take those steps forward over the last few years, and I think that there probably is, best case scenario, a little bit more to go, but I think that we are, approaching his ceiling, which is
a damn good ceiling.
Right, top 10 or 12 defenseman in the NHL. So
he's a number one defenseman on this team. He plays a two-way game. He's incredible.
And if he had any help, his deployments would probably change a little bit too, and get to a point where maybe he wouldn't be only deployed in the defensive zone and have a little bit more opportunities off in the offensive zone, etc. Glad he's on power play 1 now, but this blue line is such a travesty still that he's kind of on his own until Edmondson takes the big leap, and even then that's 2 guys. Like, he's still gonna get crazy deployments until this blue line improves significantly. So.
Well, and to rewind the clock a little bit to the conversations we were having earlier in the summer, that's why to us getting a top 4 defenseman was the biggest need this team had, because that improves your depth not in just that one spot, but in all 3 pairs, because it allows you more freedom to get Sherrod off the top pair, move Edmondson to the top pair theoretically, depending on which side you add, if it's a left or right side top 4 defenseman. That's why it was so imperative, and that's why I wanted Keandre Miller so badly, just because I knew he could take that role. So that's why I was so bummed when we didn't get him, because it's like that would have been such a huge ripple effect move for the defensive core. But that's a different conversation. We don't have to rehash that. You can go back and listen to that episode. Probably, was it June? No, it would have been July, early July, when he got dealt. So stay tuned for that. And by stay tuned to that, I mean go back and listen to it. Stay tuned for Michael Rasmussen next segment. Sorry. That's just like muscle memory for me to say that when transitioning into a break.
Stay tuned for that conversation from 2 months ago.
A little over a month ago. Segment 2 coming up.
We can go to break, yeah.
And we're doing that now. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you can also start building your wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Scotty, Michael Rasmussen and Mason Appleton. Who do you want to do here in segment 2? I'll give you the choice.
Yeah, we can go over Rasmussen. I think that it's been I don't want to say a roller coaster. That seems too dramatic. Like it's not like this dude was putting up 80 points and then is down to like 20. Like it's probably not as dramatic as that would imply, but it certainly has. But I think it's fair to call it slightly underwhelming since he signed the contract extension. I think, this was a guy that when he, what was that, 2 seasons ago or even 3 now, he was kind of like the talk of the team, and everybody was talking about how much they loved playing with him and how, he was producing offensively at a pretty decent clip. Obviously, we know what he brings with size and defense too. And since then, it has been kind of few and far between in terms of offensive production. Now, he obviously will always have the size advantage and is someone that this coaching staff, certainly in the Lalonde era, had no issue putting on like the shutdown line or anything like that. I am very interested, I guess I'll say, in what he does this year under a full season of new coaching and under Todd McClellan, because I think that he kind of found himself in this weird spot early last season where he wasn't producing enough offensively to get a ton of minutes, but wasn't necessarily, I guess, providing as much to a line as he was at one point a couple of years ago. And so he kind of settled into just this third, and honestly, at one point last year, even just this like fourth line, PK sometimes, which was an awful unit as well. Like, I don't know, it's just kind of a weird. It's been weird. Is really, I guess, the word I'm going to use to describe it. It's been a weird last couple of years for him, and I think it's fair to say he maybe didn't take the steps forward that people thought he was going to, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to the guy who like was leading the train of like the Michael Rasmussen can get like half point per game tier, and this last year was really disappointing for Michael Rasmussen. I think you said a little underwhelming. I can go a step further and say I was disappointed by the season that he had, because he came off that contract extension, and in that extension year, he set a career high of 33 points in 75 games before his season. I think it was 2 years actually before that, where he had 29 points in 56 before his season ended due to injury. So 2 years prior to that, he was crushing it. He was at half point per game. He was on pace for like 40 points that year before the season-ending injury. Last year, he did break his point total, his high. Took him 20 extra games to do it. 75 in that season compared to the 56 before that. And then this last year, like, his effectiveness dipped even more. So I think he is what he is now, but I do still expect more of him than I saw this last year. That may change because of, like you said, the new coaching staff. His role may shift. Maybe his role diminishes a little bit with youth coming up too. But I mean, this is a guy who in years past he's pretty stalwart on a penalty kill unit 2. He's been pretty good at that. They put him out there to win faceoffs sometimes. I remember he'll start overtimes just to win the faceoff and get the heck off the ice. But my hope and my expectation are one and the same in this one. And that I hope and I expect him to get back to like a high 20 to low 30 threshold, like the 27 to 33 point range that he hit those 3 seasons prior. That's my expectation of him. That also is a lower expectation than I had of him a few years ago. But now I have a better grasp on what he is. I mean, he's 26 years old. Like he is kind of, not to say he couldn't still take a leap, because any player is capable of taking a leap at any point in their career, but he just kind of is what he is. He is a bottom 6 body that can play a penalty kill minute, and he has a sort of kind of a mean streak. I mean, his mean streak kind of comes and goes, it feels like, when I'm watching him play. Like, sometimes he's not really noticeable out there. Other times he's, like, engaged and doing things. It's frustrating because, I mean, everyone agrees, right? The moment he was picked that he was kind of a reach. Like, 9th overall was pretty high for Michael Rasmussen. But there were still high expectations of him. I mean, he played 62 games at the age of 19 with the Detroit Red Wings. Like, he got here quick. I mean, then the next season he didn't play a single game, but he got here quick and played a lot of games. And he just has never really lived up to the draft slot he was taken. And so people will always think of him like that. But I think the expectation now is just him being a bottom 6 winger who can contribute on the penalty kill. And that is like, and sometimes take some faceoffs. You can be a center too in a pinch. And you need guys like that. I don't think that we're worse off for that. And it's also not that we're paying Michael Rasmussen a ton of money to do that. He's only making $3.2 million for the next 3 years. Like, He's on a affordable contract for the role that he has. Michael Rasmussen at this point, fortunately or unfortunately, is what he is. And that doesn't mean that he can't be impactful in that role. It's just not the role people were hoping out of a 9th overall pick. And I think that's what people get hung up on.
Yeah. And even, I don't know, I think even like beyond the draft selection, like, again, it wasn't just because, like, the 9th overall pick, ultimately, like, that guy isn't making decisions anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, how we're going to keep getting mad over a regime that's not in place. But I think that it kind of, there was a role that was somewhat believed that he could obtain, a couple of years ago on that good year and the year that he got the extension, or the year, whatever, before he got the extension. So I think that also, plays into it. There was some sort of an expectation of, like, okay, this guy could be like a middle 6, forward with size, decent offensive ability, and really solid defense. And sounds like a really valuable piece. And
throws the body a lot too.
Right. Like, that just hasn't really come to fruition. And I agree with you. I think, expectations going forward are probably that he's just at best a third line forward that's going to be somewhat versatile, and at worst is like your fourth line grinder type.
He had the 3rd most hits on the team, behind Seider and Kasper. Hilarious that Kasper had the 2nd most hits on the team.
So that's a testament to how little hits everybody not named Seider really had, because
141 for Michael Rasmussen, 156 for Marco Kasper. They played the same amount of games played. Ben Sherratt was 4th. So he's blocks a lot of shots too for a forward. I mean, he's just kind of a defensive winger for the most part.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Scotty, let's head to another break. I mean, we're settled on this, right? Like, we just expect for him to bounce back a little bit and get back to the high 20s, low 30s point rise, be a penalty kill 2 type guy, play defensive style game for the most part, right?
Okay, it is what it is.
That's our expectation. All right, we're going to head to segment 3. We're going to talk about a newcomer, Mason Appleton. Segment 3 coming up. All right, Scotty, Mason Appleton is new blood with the Detroit Red Wings. He signed a 2-year, $2.9 million contract with the Detroit Red Wings, coming off a 22-point season with the Winnipeg Jets, the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets. And it's actually funny because he was one of those guys that a few people predicted to come to the Detroit Red Wings because he kind of fit the bill for the Red Wings were trying to do. He does not wow people. He's not going to wow you on the ice. This is another guy. I think the conversation is probably similar to with Michael Rasmussen. The most exciting part about Appleton's conversation is just the fact that he's kind of new.
Yeah. I think that's probably true. You're hoping to get a solid, guy that's defensively sound and you can add to your bottom six. I don't think there's any misconception about what his role may be. I don't think anyone's like banking on, we're really hoping Mason Appleton, fills in that top six role or anything. Like, no, I think we're all pretty much on the same page there. If you get a solid defensively sound forward in the bottom six, then that can be a solid depth add. I think the bigger question is how much offensive production do we expect out of him?
Yeah, so he's interesting. We obviously talked about him when they signed him. There was people going back and forth whether or not he'd be power play or penalty kill. Steve Yzerman, obviously, in the media availability, noted he'd help on the penalty kill, and he did play penalty kill unit 2 minutes with the Winnipeg Jets last season, 53 total minutes on the penalty kill, and he's a guy who supposedly is very good in transition and fires a lot of shots, and you can look at that in two ways. One, if he fires a lot of shots and they come from the perimeter, it means he's not very creative. So he's not very good at finding other things to do with the puck besides shoot the puck.
Well,
so
quality versus quantity too, right? We
right.
used to have that conversation, all the time.
Plays kind of have a tendency to die on his stick, but at the same time, this team sorely lacked pucks on net. So you kind of welcome a guy in the bottom six who's not afraid to just rip it. So I don't expect a lot from him directly. 22 points in 71 games. I don't expect a lot of production out of him directly. But what I hope that he provides, it's going to sound silly, chaos. Because too often this team last season wanted to just have the perfect, beautiful goal, and those are really cool. But sometimes your best luck comes from just putting the puck on net and capitalizing on the chaos that ensues. So if the bottom six can get out there in a defensive deployment, transition out of the zone, get into the offensive zone, and then throw the puck on net and create some chaos, you might get some better luck. Because the bottom six last season couldn't defend, couldn't produce offense. So a guy like Mason Appleton in that little niche may help. But in reality, I'm expecting, that's how much of an impact do I really expect that to be? Not a ton. My expectation for him is to just be a more secure option down there than we had last year. Give up less goals and maybe score a couple more goals for as a line, as a unit, not individually, right? This is a guy you sign to play in the bottom six, so the impact and the expectation is pretty mild, to be honest. Just don't go out there and be a pylon. Help move the puck up ice. That's all I'm really asking.
No, yeah, literally. I agree with that last sentiment a ton. The expectations aren't super high, and on top of that, the bar for what we kind of need out of him in the bottom six is also not super high. If he can just be a solid, I guess you can call it two-way player down there, then that will be a welcomed addition. Just don't be a traffic cone defensively, which he isn't, and maybe improve the goal scoring a little bit down there. I think, I don't know, line mates is going to be maybe somewhat of a question, but I also think that the versatility he provides and his strengths being, to some extent kind of on both ends of the ice, you can really put him kind of wherever you need fit. So I don't even know if I want to say bottom six. I think he's on August 4th, like pretty solidified to be just third line. Like I really think that with maybe some special teams opportunities is probably what we expect out of him. And again, that sounds like a pretty valuable pickup to me. So like that's all fine.
Yeah, you just at this point you're asking for a bottom six that you can deploy and have faith won't just get walked like dog
in either zone too, right?
Right. So, but I mean that's it. I mean there's not a lot to say about Mason Appleton because the expectation is pretty mild. The bar's pretty low, and that's not to say that like we have. It's not because of Mason Appleton the bar is low. It's because of what we experienced last season that the bar is low. Like, it's more about the team than it is about him, but it's just how much do you expect out of a guy who's going to get 12 minutes a night and is going to play in the bottom six? It's just go out there and be effective in your sheltered role. That's all we want.
For sure.
Scotty, final thoughts?
I don't think so, man. We ball.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode on Wednesday. Stay tuned for that. Continuing player previews, same time, same place. It's your team every day.